Hey gardening friends, ready to grow healthier plants, bigger harvests, and smarter gardens? Let's get started.
What if everything you were ever taught about planting tomatoes was completely backward? What if laying your plant sideways in a shallow trench, not standing it upright in a deep hole, could triple your harvest and keep your garden alive through 6 straight weeks of drought without a single drop from your hose? Welcome to the Smart Gardener. If you have not subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss a method like this one. Here is the truth that most American gardeners are living with, but nobody is saying out loud. You are working too hard for what your garden is actually giving you back. You are out there every morning with the hose, every weekend with the fertilizer bag, every evening on your knees pulling weeds until your back tells you, enough is enough. And after all of that, come August, the harvest still leaves you wondering where you went wrong. What if the problem was never your effort? What if it was simply the method? Today we are going to walk through 6 techniques, each one discovered by a real gardener long before the chemical fertilizer industry existed, long before garden centers started selling you solutions to problems your soil could solve on its own. Every single one of these methods turns an ordinary backyard into a garden that feeds itself from the first warm day of spring all the way through the last harvest of fall. No synthetic fertilizer, no daily watering, no back-breaking work season after season. Stay with us through Method 3, because that is where nearly every gardener gets the science completely wrong, and it may be costing you more than you realize. And when we get to Method 6, we are going to share the oldest gardening secret on American soil, a technique that fed entire nations on this land for hundreds of years before a single European plow ever broke ground here. Pour yourself a cup of coffee. Let us get into it. Method 1. The sideways tomato and the kitchen spice. In 1987, a retired chemical engineer from a small town in Alabama pulled 342 pounds of tomatoes off a single plant and walked into the Guinness Book of World Records. His neighbors assumed he had some secret fertilizer. He did not. Same compost, same seedlings, same Alabama clay soil as everyone around him. The only difference was the moment he put the plant in the ground. Here is what most gardeners do not know. All along the stem of a tomato plant are specialized cells called pericycle cells. The moment those cells touch moist soil, they reprogram themselves into roots. Within 7 to 14 days, every inch of buried stem erupts with new growth underground. A pepper plant cannot do this. A cucumber cannot do this. Only tomatoes have this ability. Instead of digging a deep vertical hole, dig a shallow trench about 12 inches long and 3 inches deep. Lay the seedling on its side, curve the top gently upward so the leaves clear the soil, and bury the rest of the stem completely. Within 2 weeks, you have a root system 10 times larger than vertical planting gives you. That plant finds water in soil that feels bone dry on the surface. Before laying the seedling in, dust the bottom of the trench lightly with ground cinnamon. The active compound cinnamaldehyde creates a natural antifungal zone right at the soil line, where young stems are most vulnerable. A 2021 study confirmed it reduces damping off disease by 30 to 45%. Use a light hand though. Too much cinnamon forms a waxy film that traps moisture against the stem, which is exactly what you are trying to prevent. Method 2. The buried worm tower. In 1972, a woman in Kalamazoo, Michigan, spent $4 on a pound of red worms. 10 years later, the book she wrote introduced home vermicomposting to the entire United States. But in a chapter near the back that most people skipped, she described what her readers had started doing on their own. They had stopped using the box entirely and were burying a drilled PVC pipe directly inside their vegetable beds, dropping kitchen scraps in the top, and watching their plants take off in ways nothing else had explained. The science is striking. Worm castings contain 5 times more nitrogen than ordinary topsoil, 7 times more potassium, and 1.5 times more calcium. Research across multiple trials found soil amended with castings produced 26% more marketable yield and 57% more root mass. To build one, take a 4-inch PVC pipe about 18 inches long, drill quarter-inch holes across the lower 12 inches, and bury it so all those holes sit underground with 6 inches of pipe above the soil and a removable cap on top. Plant 4 tomato or pepper seedlings about 18 inches out from the pipe and drop your kitchen scraps in the top every couple of days. The worms already living in your native soil find their way in, eat the scraps, and their castings seep directly into the root zone of your plants. After one full season, we measured soil 2 inches from the tower and found 4 times the available phosphorus and 3 times the nitrogen compared to soil taken 4 feet away. One pipe, worms already in your garden, and kitchen scraps you were throwing away. That is the whole system. Method 3 is where we fix the one problem neither of these methods fully solves. It starts with a woman who was tired and a stack of old newspapers. Method 3. Sheet mulching the right way. In 1992, a hotel housekeeping manager from the Berkshire Mountains in New York reached a breaking point. A lot of us quietly reach but never say out loud. Her back was done. So one afternoon, she walked out with a stack of old newspapers, a wheelbarrow of compost, and a bale of straw. Newspapers flat over the weeds, compost on top, straw on top of that, and she walked away. 6 weeks later, every weed underneath was dead. She never dug another row again. Her book sold over 200,000 copies, and today thousands of organic farms use some version of what she built in her backyard. Here is where nearly every tutorial gets this wrong. Most people say use cardboard because it is free, but thick cardboard blocks the oxygen exchange your soil microbes need to survive. And a 2023 study confirmed recycled cardboard can carry trace amounts of PFAS chemicals from food packaging in the recycling stream. If cardboard is your only option, use plain brown unprinted boxes, remove all tape and labels, and punch holes across the entire surface with a garden fork before adding anything on top. What actually works best is plain newspaper. 5 to 7 sheets soaked in water with edges overlapping. Modern newspaper ink is soy-based and completely safe. Layer 2 inches of compost on top, then 2 inches of grass clippings or dry leaves, then 2 to 3 inches of straw to finish. To plant, cut a small cross-shaped opening through the layers, open a pocket of soil underneath, and set your seedling in. No digging, no weeding, no fertilizer. A self-feeding bed built in a single afternoon. Method 4. The buried log garden. In 1962, a 20-year-old man inherited a farm in the Austrian mountains at nearly 5,000 feet of elevation, 39 degrees average yearly temperature, 25 below zero in winter, 170 frost days every single year. The locals called it the Austrian Siberia and told him plainly that nothing would grow up there but grass. He tried conventional farming for 3 years. Everything failed. Then he found the same buried reference in old German farming books from the 15 and 1600s. Peasant farmers had been laying rotting logs under their garden beds for decades. Modern agriculture dismissed it as superstition. He had nothing left to lose. He dug a trench, filled it 3 feet deep with downed logs and branches, covered it with compost and topsoil, and shaped it into a mound about 5 feet tall. 2 years later, he was growing cherries, apricots, lemons, and figs, where his neighbors said only spruce trees could survive. He eventually consulted on agricultural projects in over 40 countries. Here is what is happening underground. Heavily decomposed wood absorbs water equal to 500% of its own dry weight and releases it slowly into the surrounding soil during drought. The decaying wood also feeds soil fungi that establish mycorrhizal networks, the underground fungal system that has sustained forests for 460 million years, extending microscopic threads far beyond where any root can reach, and delivering water and minerals directly to your vegetable roots. Decomposing wood also generates measurable heat, warming the soil above it by several degrees for earlier germination and better frost protection. A properly built bed feeds your plants for 15 to 20 years. Dig a pit 4 feet wide, 8 feet long, and 2 feet deep. Fill it with hardwood. Oak, maple, birch, ash, alder, and fruitwood all work. Avoid cedar, black walnut, and black locust entirely, because their natural oils resist decay. Pack the gaps with branches. Layer on 6 inches of grass clippings or green manure. Cover with the soil you dug out plus 4 inches of compost, and mound everything up to about 3 feet above ground. Plant shallow-rooted crops the first year, heavy feeders from year 2 onward. You will not need to water that bed for weeks at a time, and will not need to fertilize it for years. 1 pile of dead logs, 2 decades of harvest. Keep listening, because Method 5 is going to change what gardening feels like if getting down to ground level has become the hardest part of your morning. Method 5. The straw bale garden. A boy growing up on a dairy farm in Minnesota noticed something every spring. The old straw bales stacked against the barn would push out weeds 3 times the size of anything growing in the dirt beside them. He filed that away. Decades later, watching his elderly mother give up her garden because she could no longer kneel, that memory came back. What if you could grow vegetables not beside a bale of straw, but inside one? He started teaching the method in 2008. Today, people practice it on every continent except Antarctica. Here is the part that surprises everyone. You are not growing in straw. By planting day, the inside of that bale has become something else entirely. Start 18 days before your target planting date. Set the bales in their permanent location first, because they become very heavy once wet. Soak them through, then for the first 6 days, sprinkle half a cup of blood meal or any high nitrogen source across the top and water it in deeply. The nitrogen triggers a bacterial explosion inside. The interior climbs to between 130 and 150 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to cook every dormant weed seed and disease pathogen inside the bale. By days 10 through 12, the heat drops to around 90 degrees, and the inside is now warm, rich compost, ready for roots. Scoop a small hole in the top, set your seedling in, and pack the material back around the stem. The planting surface sits 18 to 20 inches off the ground. No kneeling. No bending. You harvest standing straight up. At the end of the season, the bale decomposes into crumbly compost. You spread across your other beds the following spring. One important rule: water deeply once or twice a week only. Daily watering rots the bottom out before the season is half over. Method 6. The 3 Sisters. The oldest gardening secret on American soil. More than 300 years before the first Thanksgiving, the Iroquois Nation and dozens of other indigenous peoples were already growing 3 crops together that needed no fertilizer, no weeding, and no separate watering. When European settlers arrived and saw those gardens with no straight rows, they assumed the plants were growing wild. They were not. They were a precisely designed living system that science did not fully explain until the 20th century. Corn grows tall and gives pole beans a natural trellis to climb. The beans carry rhizobia bacteria in their root nodules that pull nitrogen directly from the air and convert it into a form plant roots can absorb. Free nitrogen fertilizer running around the clock with no input from you. Squash spreads its broad leaves across the ground, holding moisture in the soil, blocking weeds from the light they need, and using spiny vines to keep animals out. Beneath the surface, squash roots reach deeper than corn and bean roots, pulling up water and minerals and making them available to the whole system. Every plant gives something. Nothing goes to waste. Research confirms what indigenous farmers knew intuitively. The same plot planted with all 3 produces more total calories than any of the 3 crops grown alone. Corn provides carbohydrates. Beans deliver protein and amino acids corn cannot supply on its own. And squash rounds out the picture with vitamins and minerals. A complete diet from a single mound of soil. To plant, build a mound about 12 inches high and 2 feet across with a handful of compost worked into the center. After your last frost date, plant 3 or 4 corn seeds in the middle. When corn reaches 8 to 10 inches tall, plant 4 to 6 pole bean seeds in a ring about 4 inches out. 1 week later, plant 2 or 3 squash seeds around the outer edge. Space mounds about 4 feet apart. At the end of the season, compost the entire mass of spent plants back into the mound. The nutrients go right back into the soil. A fully closed loop that resets itself every year without you buying a single bag of anything. 5 methods discovered by individual gardeners over the last century. 1 passed down for generations on the very land most of us are gardening on right now. All 6 pointing toward the same truth. A garden working with its own biology does not need you to work against it. Before we wrap up, here are 3 mistakes we made ourselves when we first tried these methods. Every one of them cost us a full season, and you do not have to repeat any of them. The first mistake was trying to build all 6 systems in the same spring. We had no way of knowing what was working and what was not, because everything was running at once. Pick one method, build it right, run it through a complete season, then add the next one the following year. The second mistake was using cedar wood in a buried log bed. Cedar contains natural oils that actively resist decomposition. That bed sat untouched for 3 full years before we dug it up and started over with oak and maple. Use hardwood only: oak, maple, birch, ash, alder, fruitwood. Avoid cedar, black walnut, and black locust without exception. The third mistake was watering our straw bales every single day like a regular garden bed. The bottom rotted out before the season was half over. Water deeply once or twice a week and let the bale dry slightly in between. 3 mistakes, 3 hard seasons. We just saved you all 3. Now picture next August. You walk out to your garden in the morning with a cup of coffee in your hand. Your tomato plants are 6 feet tall, dark green, and heavy with fruit. That bed has not been watered in 11 days because the buried logs are still releasing moisture from last week's rain. The worm tower is half full of coffee grounds and the casting trails are visible at the base of the pipe. Along the south fence, your straw bales are spilling over with cucumbers and squash. In the corner of the yard, the corn, beans, and squash are tending to each other without a single thing from you. You have not opened a bag of fertilizer all year. You have not pulled a weed in 3 months. You have not knelt on the hard ground once. That is what these 6 methods give you. Not a shortcut. A garden that works with its own biology, while you walk through it with a basket in your hand, and actually enjoy being there. These methods came from real gardeners who paid close attention to what the land was already doing, and had the patience to work with it instead of against it. No product to sell, just observation, and the willingness to try what nobody else was bothering to try. If this video shifted the way you think about your garden, share it with one person you know who has been struggling with weak plants or a disappointing harvest. And if you have not subscribed to The Smart Gardener yet, do that now so you never miss what we cover next. Keep growing.